Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us on episode 22 of Health Talk with Dr. Kel. I'm Nikki Sterner, and today begins a 4-part series dedicated to sugar, inside and outside of the body. In part 1, we're going to discuss sugar, sucrose, plus many other types, and how it affects the gut. We'll talk about how it's damaging to the gut microbiome, contributing to leaky gut syndrome and inflammation throughout the digestive tract. In part 2, we'll discuss sugar, fructose, and how it affects the liver. Sugar can be just as damaging to the liver as alcohol and can lead to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. With all the high fructose corn syrup and processed foods and drinks today, we see more people with bulging bellies from the hardened scar tissue in their livers. In part 3, we'll discuss sugar, glucose, and how it affects the brain. It can cause inflammation in the brain, leading to slowed cognitive function, mood disorders such as depression, and deficits in memory. Sugar has a drug-like effect in the reward center of the brain. It can become a food addiction for some, and others may develop obesity and diabetes as a result. We wrap up this series with part 4, which discusses sugar on the outside of the body, the skin. Sugar is a natural humectant, meaning it draws moisture from the environment into the skin. It's hydrating. It's used in body scrubs as an exfoliant, but should not be used on the delicate skin of the face. Okay, so how many of you know someone with gut problems? Irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, colon inflammation, leaky gut syndrome, acid reflux, bloating in the belly? Every time you eat, you feel like a war is going on in your digestive tract. It makes it so hard to eat anything. It can feel so limiting. You feel like anything you eat makes you bloated and gassy. It's uncomfortable and it interrupts your sleep. You want to fix it, but nothing seems to work. The question becomes, are you feeding the good bacteria or the bad bacteria? Because that war you're feeling is real. We're going to show you how to fight for the good guys and win. Welcome, everyone, to Health Talk with Dr. Kel. I'm Nikki Sterner, and we have Dr. Kel and producer Eric here today with us.
Hi, Nikki.
Welcome, everybody.
Hey.
And we are on podcast number 22, and we're starting a series on sugar inside and outside the body, which I'm super excited to get into because I have a problem with sugar.
Believe me, today you will want to stop eating sugar.
I'm looking forward to this.
discussion.
Honestly, I need this.
There's the hook to keep listening, right?
Yeah, exactly. But before we do that, I wanted to say a quote and to discuss that. So, I think goals should never be easy. They should force you to work, even if they are uncomfortable at the time. And this is by Michael Phelps, who obviously has set many records and won many gold medals and knows how to set goals, right?
Yes.
So the goal of getting off sugar should not be easy? Is that what you're saying?
I agree with that. Yeah, it's definitely been uncomfortable every time I've tried, which has been multiple times. So I thought this was really, important for today to talk about goals because this has been a goal of mine, getting off sugar. And I just, for whatever reason, it's hard. I feel like a death is happening to me every time I try it. Now that might be dramatic, but I feel like I'm like losing my best friend, which is horrible.
Do you have a going away party with sugary cake to say goodbye?
Yes, exactly. I'm like, well, I better just have everything now if I'm going to stop tomorrow. That's a bad thing, isn't it, Dr. Kel? Go ahead, hit me with it.
It is.
Is that called addiction?
It is. And we've talked about addictions in the past. Like they should have, you got AA for alcohol. You need AA, although we call it something else for sugar, for caffeine, for alcohol.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
SAA, Sugar Alcohol Anonymous.
They need to have that. I'm going to start that group. I'm going to start
Somebody
that group.
out there, get it going.
Okay, it's me. Are you in?
I'm in.
Are you in? Okay, we got 3 members. The 3 founding members.
High five here.
Yeah, virtual high five.
So I did want to mention one thing from last week. We talked about COVID-19 in our last episode, and I've had people mention to me since then, one of the things we failed to discuss, or one of the reasons there were these shutdowns everywhere, because they didn't shut down in Sweden, they didn't shut down in Belarus, and they didn't shut down in Haiti either, apparently, and there were less deaths in Haiti than anywhere else in the world, according to what they recorded. So,
Per capita.
Point being, the shutdowns, I was reminded that the shutdowns were due to an effort to protect the hospitals from being overrun by sick people. Didn't happen in San Diego, by the way, and many places in the country it never happened. Did happen in New York, but I've been told that New York, even during flu season, often gets overrun with their hospitals. So it's a typical thing out there, even without COVID. But just wanted to bring that up poor excuse that the hospitals are going to get overrun. What did they do in China? They built more of them. They built temporary facilities to help those who couldn't get into the hospitals, and that worked just fine here. We have all these vacant facilities in different parts of the country that could have been used if things were overrun in areas, and could have done temporary shelters like China, but instead we just shut down the economy and everybody's lives, and the emotional stress caused by that, I believe, was far more damaging to human beings, their immune system, and our economy than COVID itself ever did damage to us.
Yeah, and especially the kids too. I mean, I was talking to my son had his ingrown toenails cut out this morning, and I was talking to the doctor who performed the procedure, and I was just saying how the kids were out for a full year of school. Yeah. And that,
I do have to say some benefits of COVID. My oldest son, he does Instagram videos. He likes to drift, and so he's got like 20,000 followers on Instagram.
oh my gosh.
The binge watching at home.
And he's been able to still go out and drift his cars.
What
In
is
fact,
drift?
less people on the road. You don't know what
I
drifting
don't know.
is?
No, okay, no, I'm out of it.
Oh my goodness,
channel,
Nikki.
yeah.
What is drift?
Okay, well,
Sliding sideways. In the car.
sliding sideways in your car.
What?
See, when no one's going to work for COVID, the freeway's open to drifting, right?
Yes. He created more videos and
Don't try that at home, guys.
on drifting, and has a blast with that. He's out in Texas. His wife also is an interior designer, and she does a bunch of Instagram
cool.
things. And I should have had those Instagram
put 'em
connection
in the
links
notes.
for you, but we'll put those in the notes.
There you go.
For all the drifters. And
If you're drifting or wanting to improve the looks of your home, we'll give you those links.
oh yeah. I love
Anyway.
it.
Well, I suppose we should get back to the topic today, sugar. That you were going to share something in
Sugar.
the beginning there on sugar.
Yes, I was.
You were going to share a
Okay,
little bit
so-
about sugar.
Subtle hint. Go.
Yes, here we go. Sugar, or table sugar, is also known as sucrose. There are actually many different types of sugars. Glucose, galactose, fructose, and lactose are all sugars, along with sucrose. Sucrose is made up of one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose joined together. Most of our sucrose comes from sugar cane. In Europe, sucrose comes mainly from sugar beet. All sugars are carbohydrates, which is the main source of energy for the body. Sugars are found in nature in a variety of fruits, vegetables, milk, and dairy products. Plants make sugars naturally through photosynthesis.
Should also mention that fermented sugars are what creates alcohol.
You mean like fermented grapes?
Yeah.
And what else?
Wheat,
That's the main
barley,
one. Wheat.
corn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because grains are sugars, right?
Yep. Rice. However, isopropyl alcohol, the alcohol that we put on our skin all the time and cleaning things and is in every hand sanitizer out there,
Yeah.
comes from oil.
of oil?
It comes from oil. It's synthesized from oil.
Kind of oil.
Oil, gas. The gas comes
Really?
from oil in the ground.
Ugh.
They
Don't drink that.
A lot of people don't realize that, and
Wow.
apparently people do drink it, and shouldn't share with that. Those who can't afford the real thing. Apparently, it can damage your system more than just regular alcohol does. Although all alcohols are bad for you, and we talked about that in the past.
Yeah.
And any amount of alcohol is damaging to the body and the brain, and kills your gut flora. Well, sugar, in its unfermented form, is also really damaging to the body, and we're going to talk about sugar in the gut. Dr. Sir Heerden from out of Sydney, he's an interventional gastroenterologist and hepatologist. In an article here, I wanted to share some things he says about it. He says, microbes refer to bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microorganisms existing inside the human body. Trillions of these occupy the inside of the intestines and on the skin. Gut microbiome is the medical term for the microbes that are found in a certain part of the large intestine known as the cecum. There are up to 1,000 species of bacteria in an individual's gut microbiome. Bacterial cells in the body outnumber human cells by almost 10 trillion.
Whoa.
While most species are beneficial to our health, certain species are the cause of diseases. A diet that's high in processed food and added sugar can eliminate the beneficial bacteria in the human gut. The resulting balance can cause increased cravings for sugar, which further damage the gut. An unhealthy amount of unrefined sugar, especially high fructose corn syrup, leads to inflammation in the body. This itself can lead to additional diseases, including certain types of cancer. So sugar, especially in the form of high fructose corn syrup, which you find in virtually everything today, anything processed, all processed foods, almost all of them. We talked before about the PFAS that are in all the processed foods. Well, you've got added sugar in all the processed foods, and you've got so many different things in those that are damaging to the body. Combine them all together, and hence the people who live off processed foods, it affects their brain. They can't think as well. It affects their gut, affects their liver, affects their heart, affects everything. So basically, you shorten your life significantly. You don't need to be a smoker anymore. Just go buy something from a fast food restaurant or microwave a meal, and you're going at it. Any comments about that? Questions, guys?
I was just gonna say it'd be interesting to test two people. One who smoked from like the age of 18 on, and the other one who ate out fast food every single day at at 18 on, to see which one lived longer.
Well, the guy that did 30 days eating McDonald's.
That was so crazy.
What did he do?
Michael, was it? No. What's that guy's name?
I can't think of his name either, but
it's called Super Size Me.
Yep.
So he decided he did these 30-day challenges, and he ate every meal at McDonald's for 30 days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And he weighed himself before and had his cholesterol checked and all this kind of stuff. And he was a pretty healthy guy, maybe 40, 35, somewhere in there. And I can't give numbers to remember, but he gained all this weight. His cholesterol was just off the chart. Like, his health was going down. And the doctors were like, if you continue on this habit, like, you'll be dead within the year. Like, it was so bad. So that triggered a bunch of stuff that restaurants aren't allowed to ask. Do you want to supersize this? It made them reduce their drinks to try to have some healthy American lifestyle. But yeah.
Wow.
It's really, really interesting video if you want to watch it.
So that's interesting. Like, is less better than more?
None's better than any.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you are still taking it in.
Sure.
Well, the thing with all the processed sugar, white sugar, brown sugar, a lot of people think, brown sugar is better. It's basically they took white sugar and put some molasses in it. It's 5% molasses and called it brown sugar. Originally, brown sugar was unrefined sugar, so it hadn't been broken down all the way. Now they just add some molasses back in. Fool you.
So it's even more unhealthy for you.
Well, the molasses, I don't know. I suppose you could argue the point. But either way, it's not good for you. Doing essentially the same things. Leaky gut syndrome. Here's another thing from Dr. Sahirden. An increase of pathogenic bacteria, which is the species of microorganisms that cause diseases, can lead to a condition known as dysbiosis. An increase of this type of bacteria causes changes in the internal mucosal barrier of the intestines. With a reduction of beneficial bacteria along this barrier, its permeability is altered, allowing harmful substances to pass through. This then leads to leaky gut syndrome, which launches an inflammatory response targeting the substance that leaks through the intestine of the wall. What happens, research is showing that processed sugar, as it enters your body, the microbes in there normally would take, for instance, all the fruits you eat, bananas, apples, oranges. The type of sugar in there is fructose, okay? So the fructose goes into you, gets broken down.
Sorry, wait, let me interrupt real quick.
Yep.
Is fructose the same as high fructose?
High fructose corn syrup is not the same thing.
Just clearing that up.
Technical terms, I suppose. But the high fructose corn syrup is essentially broken down sugar and liquefied. But sucrose itself, as mentioned earlier in what you were initially saying, is when it goes into the body breaks off the glucose, it's absorbed, and the fructose goes through to the liver, and then the liver breaks it down again into glucose, and then utilizes it by the body, creates glycogen in the liver, stores in the muscles, etc., goes throughout your body. Too much glucose, and we're going to get into that too a little bit about the liver after we talk about the gut, that's what leads to fatty liver. But also, that processed sugar overburdens your good bacteria, and it causes a die-off of the good bacteria, and the bad bacteria begins to overrun the system, leading to the leaky gut that we were just talking about.
So that was a long way of describing that. Can you sum that up in like 5 seconds? I was trying to follow along so I could paraphrase that.
Essentially, you eat the sugar, goes into your stomach, bacteria in there, along with the lining, the cells that line the stomach, they are trying to take in all the sugar all at once. And the bacteria bacteria actually helps process the things you eat, break it down. And it basically, when you eat a piece of fruit, for example, you've got a whole bunch of fiber in the fruit and other substances in there. So the body takes it in, and as it breaks it down all together, it all works together. So that's, God did it that way. So it is all utilized by the body, and it's not an overabundance all at once. Whereas if you are you're drinking a soda or Kool-Aid or whatever it might be, the energy drinks that are full of sugar and so many other things, the foods, the processed foods, they put a bunch of sugar in that. It doesn't have all that fiber in there and other things that you would find in fruit. So it overloads the system, starts killing the bacteria, starts damaging the cells that live in your gut, and they can't process all that stuff. It overloads, and then it leaks through, goes through into the liver, and then the liver can't deal with it either, and you get what's called fatty liver, because the liver's trying to process it all, but instead of turning it quickly into glucose like it normally does, it turns it into fat, and then the fat starts gathering around the liver and infiltrating the liver because there's an overload. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, it does.
So the leftover extra sugar goes to the liver how?
Through the intestines, goes through into the blood, and the blood travels to the liver before it goes throughout the body. Another study that talks about this same thing, it said, it's a fair evaluation. Too much of the sweet stuff is linked to a myriad of negative health effects like fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and some cancers. In a study published in the Journal of Science Translational Medicine, scientists announced another insidious sugar side effect. Research suggests sugar consumption can disrupt the gut microbiome, make animals vulnerable to colon inflammation. See, some of these studies have been done on animals. Can't always take the human and do it all and cut them open and see what it all looks like. So unfortunately, the little animals like the mice and rats, they get to be sacrificed to help us. But they always say now that they do it in a humane way. So for those of you who are concerned about, for the benefit of humans, yes,
they give them
those little creatures that you're screaming or afraid of and don't want in your house or your garage or roaming through the sewers, they get used to help us. Anyway, inflammation, and may lead to inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's disease. The average American eats 77 grams of sugar daily, a number that dwarfs the recommended amount of 25 daily grams.
I was going to ask that question.
3 times what normally.
The FDA recommends you eat 25 grams.
Yeah.
That's not bananas and apples.
Well, no, that is banana, and that is where you should get it from. You should be getting it from bananas, apples, oranges, etc., instead of through the processed foods and drinks that we take in every day. And I would say that 77 grams is probably a small number for a lot of people, especially in America, because the Western diet we're over. I bet it's double, even triple that amount for a lot of our youth today. I mean, live off this stuff.
So if you do sneak a few bananas and apples in your diet, don't go find a soda that has 25 grams of sugar and be like, okay, I had my daily sugar.
Yeah, next time you grab something off the shelf, look at the sugar content in it and count how many grams there are of sugar in that one drink, and you've probably already hit the daily recommended value.
Most cola, a can of cola has anywhere from 40 to 55 grams of sugar. Just 1 12 ounce.
Yeah.
And if you look at I hate to say restaurants, but go to a restaurant, right, and get their normal large size, it's probably 32 to 40 plus ounces of soda. So now you're 200 grams of sugar in one drink without the refill.
Yeah. However, there is a promising thing here that I learned as I was doing some research here. People who are concerned, obviously the sugar is making everybody fat. Fatty liver, fat on the body. When the liver can't process it all properly, you get fat around the liver, but you get fat around the heart, you get fat around the belly, you get fat around the butt.
You get man boobs. How about that?
You get man boobs. Yes. All those things happen from eating an excess amount of carbohydrates in the day. And that's why the low-carb diets are really coming into being. And we're going to talk more about this in the future when we hit the low-carb or the dieting phase of, we're going to do a several-part series on different types of diets and how diets work. And sugar is that's the number one thing. Cut out carbohydrates when you're doing a low-carb diet. And you need some. You need some, but it needs to be good, and it needs to be the healthy. Here, another part of the article. Lachette, any other comments?
Well, go ahead and finish, and then I'll...
For decades, scientists have known that sugar can throw metabolism and insulin responses out of whack, a shift that can cause a cascade of downstream effects. What they don't know, however, is how sugar influences inflammatory bowel disease. IBDs, like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, are increasingly common and plague an estimated 3.5 million people worldwide. I think the number is far larger than that. They these diseases can profoundly impact daily life, causing symptoms including severe diarrhea, abdominal pain, weight loss, and fatigue. And I like this part here, weight loss. So if you consume lots of sugar and then you get Crohn's disease, you don't need to go on a low carb diet. You're just going to lose weight because you're not absorbing any nutrients anyway, and so your body will just slowly deteriorate and you'll get real thin. So,
Not in a
hey,
healthy
getting
way.
cancer too makes you thin too. So, do which one you seem as more important.
Yeah. So I was going to talk about sugar and what it's doing inside of your gut, because your gut is like your immune system, right?
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, and we've already talked a little bit about that, but to put two and two together, once that bacteria, the other thing I didn't mention is as you get that sugar rush, you mentioned addiction earlier. Let's come back to addiction in a second.
Okay.
So you got the sugar in there. It's killing off your bacteria. It's disrupting the function of your cells. And so all of a sudden you're not absorbing your nutrients properly, and not absorbing the nutrients then can cause damage to your brain, cause damage to all your organs. The other thing they're finding, ADD kids, here's the thing with addiction. When you have sugar, it causes a dopamine release in the brain, which when dopamine is released, it's something that makes your brain feel good. So you're going, hey, I just had that piece of cake or that piece of pie. I feel better for a little bit. Wow, if I eat more of that, I can keep feeling good.
Oh.
And so the body gets this cycle going, and it excites the brain. And in children, I mean, if you got kids with ADD, get them off the sugar. There's varying reports out there. For a time, you could see research on, oh no, ADD has nothing to do with sugar. Well, there's all kinds of evidence now that even if you can't blame ADD or ADHD on the sugar itself, the sugar, the carbohydrates, the processed food aggravate the symptoms severely. So, and it disrupts the brain function, so you can't think as clearly when you're eating that kind of food. I remember years ago, I went into, right before taking a test, I hadn't really eaten much before. And it was at a time where, I'd drink a soda and, the caffeine kind of wake me up, and the sugar would seem to wake me up a little bit too, obviously from the dopamine response. I'd feel a little better. Well, I bought a Mountain Dew, and it was like a 32-ouncer, and I chugged the whole thing before the test. Well, guess what? I failed the test. When I got in there, I couldn't remember half of the stuff. And that right then, it told me, okay, I can't do this again. The stuff in there is really disrupting my thought processes. And this is what happens to little kids. They're getting a crappy meal in the morning. They're a bowl of cereal and milk and probably the Cocoa Puffs. I'm sorry, General Mills. But,
Sorry,
Don't be a sponsor.
your cereal's crap. I know you probably create some that are good and healthy, but you got all this stuff that the kids are eating is destroying their brain. So they get to school and they're supposed to sit there and think, and their minds wander, and they can't focus on anything. And the food they're getting put in their bodies in the morning, that's what's causing it. So stop it, parents.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to interject here. We talked about an app several episodes ago where you can scan the barcodes of your food, and you brought it up. I don't remember, Nikki, what it was.
I think you did. It was Environmental Working Group, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I got that, and I went through all the cereals in our closet, and holy cow, like, you look at, the Cocoa Puffs and all these cereals, and you're like, oh, well, obviously those have sugar. They can't be good for you. But then you look at, like, the Raisin Brands and the, quote unquote, somewhat looking healthy. Yeah,
Supposedly the healthier stuff.
Special
No
K
different.
was higher on the list of being unhealthy than Cocoa Puffs.
Well, and you even look at those that are the granola ones.
Yeah, yep.
That supposed to be the next step
Yep,
up. They're
yeah.
just as bad.
So they rank it, if you do find the app, they give you a scale of like 1 to 10, and I don't remember which one's which now, 10 being unhealthy or 1 being unhealthy, but they rank it, and it goes through all these cereals, and man, like, they appear to be healthy because, like, we got raisins and bran and all this stuff, but they're not healthy for you.
Well, and they list all kinds of vitamins that are in there.
Yeah.
Synthetic.
Yeah.
Synthetic. Can't say it. They're not natural vitamins coming from natural sources. They're made in a lab.
No. Unfortunately, you got to go buy the, like, $18 per little bag granola to
Yeah,
get
or make your
healthy.
own.
Yeah, or make your own, yeah.
Make your own.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking for a solution,
Yeah.
I say give the food you should be eating in the morning that, have the eggs and the vegetables mixed in with the eggs, scrambled eggs with, mix in some leafy greens and this kind of stuff my wife does in the morning when she's making food. She'll make scrambled eggs and put in all the vegetables with it, and it tastes great. So you're getting your protein. You want to a balance of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, but you want those carbohydrates to be complex carbohydrates, not the simple sugars that are put in the cereals.
All right, before we go on, I wanted to talk about the gut a little more.
Okay.
So, like, when I eat sugar, which happens every day, fortunately, sometimes I notice, like, I'll take the lactic acid supplement through standard process, which is supposed to help, feed the good bacteria. And I think I took a probiotic too because I know that I'm kind of like trying to balance out.
Are you trying to ask me how you can cheat, Nikki?
I am cheating. That's what I'm telling you. I'm cheating. But I feel like a war going on in my gut, like sometimes. Like I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that because they're literally fighting. Like I can feel it, like
They
battling it
absolutely
out.
are. They absolutely are. Well,
It's crazy.
Okay, if you want me to give you my recipe for cheating.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, I do.
Okay, first of all, you shouldn't cheat because cheaters.
Dun, dun, dun.
Never win.
Yeah.
We're going to kick you out the
Yeah.
podcast. If you
Yeah. Okay.
Dang it.
Okay.
Okay, let me lie. I don't eat sugar.
One of the things I always do, or try to always do, if I have those moments, like everybody does, and okay, I'm not trying to talk like I'm perfect because I'm far from perfect, but
But you have been
this is
perfect
all
for how
about-
many days?
Oh, I've been on this Sunday will be 8 weeks with 0 processed foods or 0
Snaps
sugars.
for you.
And just
8
been
weeks?
eating fruits and vegetables. I've lost 14 pounds, and
Wow.
It works.
it works. Just cutting it out. I didn't go on any diet. I just changed what I was eating.
I'm just gonna throw out
And
there,
just
though.
started eating organic fruits and vegetables and wild caught cod and salmon. Don't have the farm raised stuff.
Wait, FYI, do not overcook your salmon like I did last night. It is terrible.
Salmon jerky.
Oh, it's just terrible. I remember Dr. Ingrid telling me that, like, just don't overcook it and you'll be fine. And I overcook everything.
Smoked salmon's the best.
It was horrible.
Smoked salmon's the best because it's I'm not big on sushi anymore because you can get parasites and stuff from sushi.
Yeah.
And there are some great parasite cleanses out there. Standard Process does one of them. We'll put up links with those kinds of things
Yeah.
too. But in the notes, in the podcast notes.
But
Anyway,
I was gonna say
we're kind of
that
off the topic.
Real quick for our listeners.
Go ahead.
Dr. Kell, who knows so much about the human body, is not perfect. And I want to put that out there. For all you guys who are like, oh, I can't give up sugar or I can't take it out of my life. He hasn't either. He's trying now and he's doing a really good job. But he's not perfect. And that's okay. Like, don't feel like you have to have this perfect lifestyle. We're just giving you suggestions and ideas on how to have a healthier lifestyle, right?
Right.
One thing I've discovered in life, and I think we all really know, but we ignore, is fear is one of the greatest motivators out there. COVID-19 proved that. Well, this is what I'm doing today, is I'm trying to make you fearful of sugar so that at least it helps reduce your consumption and improves your health. Obviously, for many, it is an addiction. So that addiction is hard to break. But typically, like subtle addictions, like I would call a subtle addiction, caffeine, sugar, alcohol is not a subtle addiction. Most drugs, actually, cocaine they show is not necessarily addictive. When it's mixed with other things, it is. But in and of itself, that's one of the things that made it so popular at one time, is you could stop doing it and not get addicted to it.
Don't start.
However, don't start cocaine.
not
It leads to
encouraging that.
using other drugs, and in fact, they mix it with everything else, and that's why you got all these other drugs out there like methamphetamines that are highly addictive and brain damaging. All these things. Anyway, go on and on about that. The point with sugar is it's mildly addictive in the sense if you can get off sugar 3, 4, 5 days straight, you can release yourself from that. And I have to say, when I started this, it's probably the third day for me was the worst. Even when I've done diets in the past, it always seems like the third day for me is the hardest. Some they find it right away. There's a few days longer. But that's what I would say. If you're going to do some things, hit the low-carb diet. I'm not doing a low-carb diet. However, ironically, by eating the way I'm eating, I am eating a low-carb diet. However, I'm still eating plenty of fruit. So my carbohydrate levels are probably at that level of about 25, 35 grams of carbohydrates a day, but they're in the form of the fructose from fruit mixed with all the fiber. And that's what, back to the cheat. One of the things I do if I, you go to a birthday party, they got cake, and I gotta have some of that cake.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I take fiber pills. I throw in some fiber pills, and I like the ones from Standard Process. We go back to Standard Process. There are lots of others.
Gastrofiber.
But I take the GastroFiber. I'll pop 4 pills of GastroFiber, very big piece of cake.
Interesting.
So your cheat is fiber?
Yes, my cheat is fiber.
Okay, I can do that.
Because fiber, anybody on a low-carb diet knows that if they've studied a little bit, that you can, when you look at the grams of sugar you take, and if you add in the grams of fiber you take, and you can subtract
them, right?
From the sugar, because the sugar and the fiber, the gut loves the fiber. However, they're bad types of fiber, so you really need to be careful. Certain types of fiber are too rough. They can cause damage to your intestinal tract as well if you do the wrong kinds of fiber. I'm telling you, the crap you buy over the counter at most of the grocery stores, long term can damage your gut. So get the good stuff.
So back to sugar and the immune system in the gut, right?
I don't think we're going to get to liver in this one.
I know. I'm like, so like people that get cancer sometimes will treat it naturally, and that's like the first thing they cut out is sugar, right?
Yes.
Because it does so much damage to your
want to
immune
heal their
system.
gut.
Yeah. And they add what, like greens and all vegetables and.
Well, a lot of the, I've done some studying of different natural ways of treating cancer in the body. Had family members that have used them successfully. One of my favorite ones is the Gershon diet.
Yeah.
And they're based out of San Diego, and you can go into Mexico to get the treatments because they've been outlawed in the United States. I wonder why. Money, money, money. Once again.
They're outlawed?
Oh yeah, some of the one of the things that they do in the Gershon diet down in Mexico is they part of the diet is Laetrile pills, and that's made from the pits of apricots. And the years ago, I think it was even back in the 80s. There's a big thing on Laetrile. Is it doesn't cure cancer? Doesn't anything? Well, it's not the Laetrile curing the cancer. It's helping in the process. But what they're really doing, the whole idea of the whole Gershon diet, and there are many other diets doing different things with similar principles, but taking all the digestive load off the body. So many of the things that they do, they're taking the vegetables and fruits and they're juicing them. And so that you're getting the nutrients, and initially you're juicing them and just drinking the juice. You're having several cups a day of vegetable juice, carrot juice, apple juice, and some may argue, oh no, you're getting a bunch of sugar because you don't have the fiber in there. Well, what it's doing is it's still full of nutrients, and yes, you are getting the fructose from there. It's not the same as eating a spoonful of white sugar. Granted, you're not getting the fiber there initially in that way, but that's all you're having. You're basically living on that for a few days. And it's taking the whole digestive load off the body. So all of a sudden your body's like in a state of, thank you, I have some time to rest.
Yeah.
And
I can do other stuff.
And then it can start fighting the cancer. And so
are you recommending this as a diet, or are you giving the caution?
I've actually gone on the diet myself for like 30 days, not with the Laetrile because you can't get it in the United States. But I did. You can go on the Gershon website and you can basically see the diet. And you can do it yourself. It's not an easy thing to do.
Is this the one with the coffee enemas?
Yes, coffee enemas. They say that the coffee actually, okay, we've said caffeine is how horrible is it for you, but
enema form.
But shooting it up the other end actually enters the bloodstream through the colon. Goes through the liver and helps detox the liver, and you're only doing it temporarily. You're not like living off coffee enemas, and it's just part of the detoxing process because your liver, typically, if you cancer is mutating cells. Mutating cells occur when your body's not functioning normally. So the nutrients aren't getting to the cells aren't expelling their waste properly, and they start multiplying in a mutated form, hence cancer. And so the body's immune system, one of the reasons the body's immune system has a hard time fighting cancer is because the body doesn't recognize those cells immediately or at all as a foreign substance in the system, so it ignores it and lets it grow. Oh. And so, in fact, there's more research being done where they're trying to target the cancer cells with foreign substances so the body will recognize them as a foreign entity and start killing them off. Whereas in the natural forms of diets aimed at killing the cancer in your body, it's basically taking the load off the body. When you take the load off the body and the body now is functioning like it should normally, then it can recognize the cancer and start killing it itself. One of the reasons it doesn't recognize it is because the body's not working like it should.
And yeah, like
I was just going to say then, so kind of for a good reset, try this for 30 days and it just gets your body back harmonized and ready to go.
I just read recently, and for some reason his name slips my mind, a golfer.
Tiger Woods.
No, not Tiger, but he's in California.
Phil Mickelson?
Yes, you got it.
Nailed it.
ding, 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 winner, winner,
Good job,
winner.
Nikki. He's been in the news lately because he's lost a fair amount of weight and kind of came up with his own diet. And what he does once a week, he'll fast for 36 hours.
Oh, wow.
Every 7 days, I think 36 hours out of that 7-day cycle, he fasts.
Juice some golf course
And
grass.
I haven't looked at the diet specifically, so I don't know exactly what else he eats and stuff. But he's lost a lot of weight. It said he claims that's what's really improved his golf game and he's 50 years old and he's kept his golf game. He's still playing with the young guys.
Wow.
How often is this 36-hour fast?
Every week
He does it every week.
Every week.
Every week he does it. He gives his body a reset, he says, and same kind of thing with this Gershon diet. It basically takes the load off the body. I'm guessing he drinks water during that 36 hours, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. And you stop feeding the bad stuff with
You're giving your
sugar,
body
yeah.
a break. So intermittent fasting is really good for you. Say 24 hours is a good amount of time. Not sure why he picked 36. Probably some science there to it, that someone who's done some kind of research that advised him that 36 was better than 24. Don't know. Have to look more into that. We'll talk about it in the
Yeah,
future.
we should do a podcast on intermittent fasting. That's getting
Yeah.
really popular.
Yep. Yeah, when we really get into the diet series, and we'll probably do that in the next month or so. We'll talk more about these kinds of things. Anything else, Nikki? Did you have a question about
I think
digestion?
that was it.
Okay.
Are you scared of sugar yet? We need to keep going.
I'm so scared. As a summary, sugar in the gut is a bad thing, you're saying.
Bad
So
for the gut.
bad.
Screw up the gut. Screws up everything else in your
It feeds
system.
the bad bacteria, which then overpowers the good bacteria, which makes us sick and causes inflammation throughout the
The
digestive tract.
inflammation is what causes us to be sick. Once we're inflamed, set off our immune system, because our immune system is activated in a state of inflammation. It's activated in a state of infection. Same, very similar process going on, except the cells are differentiating in different ways when they're fighting a virus as opposed to dealing with the
So
inflammatory
it's kind of
response
like
in
an
the body.
infection.
It
Like
does.
you're infecting your body with the wrong
you
foods.
You are. It could be looked at that way too. It's just another type of infection.
Yeah.
You're just infecting it with a substance the body doesn't like,
Yeah.
and the microbes don't like, instead of a virus or bacteria or fungus that the body doesn't.
And then you're strengthening the bad bacteria.
Yeah, and then you're killing yourself. You're
Slowly.
reducing your lifespan. You're reducing your quality of life. I've always said, be nice to live a long time, but I don't want to live a long time if my quality of life isn't good. I want my brain to still work and my body to still function.
Yeah.
When those two things go, or one or the other severely goes, being here just isn't as fun. Disneyland is not as fun.
Yeah.
If
It's
you don't
amazing
have
though.
those abilities and
Your body
faculties.
talks to you though. It's amazing how much, if you actually are in tune with your body, you'll get those early signals, right?
Yes.
It's just that a lot of people.
Well, when you start
It
shutting
takes
them
time.
down when you're a child,
Yeah.
I mean, when your parents are feeding you all kinds of crap, mothers, check your baby food. A lot of sugar is put in baby food too.
Sure.
So make sure when you're fed that way from the time you're a baby,
Yeah.
you're dealing with chronic inflammation from the time you're a baby.
That's true. And if you eat a lot of sugar, you get used to eating a lot of sugar versus if you don't eat it very often, then your body kind of
Well,
tells you oh,
You've heard of drug tolerance, right?
Yeah, same thing, right?
You get sugar tolerance.
Sugar tolerance, yeah.
Insulin tolerance is another term. And another thing there, but it's all tied together. So the more sugar you eat, the more dopamine produced, the more your brain accommodates to that, and the more sugar it wants to get that same dopamine release.
So you crave it more and
Yep,
more.
you crave it just like you would a drug that's giving that same dopamine release.
Yes. So, like we said at the beginning, we're going to be starting our Sugar Anonymous group.
Call Nikki.
So, yeah, you can call
Nikki's-
1-800-SUGAR.
Nikki is the chairman.
No more.
Sugar.
We'll be getting that going, so just check the notes for that.
Did you want
Maybe
to
not.
give out your email, Nikki, on this one?
Yeah. We'll put that in the notes, maybe. All right, anything else for our listeners today, guys?
Nope, we're moving forward in the next one. I'm going to talk about the liver and sugar, and we'll see what we get through on the next one. Moving on to brain.
I have a lot of questions about sugar, you know. I want to
yes.
know more.
Well, anybody that, you know,
Eats a lot of sugar.
when you're talking to an addict, you got to talk to him differently than you would the average
That's right.
person. And
Nikki, we
Nikki
love you.
may
You can
qualify
get
in
through
this sense. She's basically come out.
Come out.
She's a closet sugar fiend.
Thank you for your support, everyone.
Closet addict. And who knows? Maybe sugar addiction leads to other drug addiction. I mean,
Serious,
alcohol
man.
addiction.
That's heroin, guys. That's all sorts of
you know,
sugar.
they
It's a
say
gateway drug.
They say sugar could be a gateway
right.
substance.
To
you
caffeine.
know, we
Don't snort
caffeine.
the sugar; it hurts your nose.
Yeah. Anyway,
I prefer it in my mouth.
okay. Well,
And anyway.
there you go.
All right, so thanks for listening today. We are going to continue this talk on sugar next week, and I'm looking forward to that as well because I want to know what
So
it's
you wanna
doing
talk
in my
about sugar?
liver. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please do share it with your friends and family. If you have sugar addicts in your family, let them know there is hope. Okay? There is hope. 1-800, no more sugar.
Not a real
Sugar
number.
no more. All right, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Next Tuesday.
Thanks,
Don't
Nick.
Next
forget.
Tuesday, yes, our podcasts
Tuesday.
drop every Tuesday. Thanks, everybody.
While we make every effort to broadcast correct information, we are still learning. We will double check all facts, but realize that medicine is a constantly changing science and art. One doctor may have a different way of doing things from another. We are simply presenting our views on how to live a healthy lifestyle that will be as evidence-based as possible. We welcome any comments, suggestions, or corrections of errors. We take no money from drug or device companies. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others, including but not limited to patients that you are treating. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast. Under no circumstances shall Dr. Kel Fullerton or any guests or any contributors to the podcast or any employees, associates, or affiliates of Dr. Kel Fullerton be responsible for damages arising from use of this podcast. This blog should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis of expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. Our website, blog, and podcasts are all HIPAA compliant. While you may give your email address to subscribe to the website posts or to post information on the website blog, we will never share your email address or contact information with any third parties without your explicit permission. The contents of Health Talk with Dr. Kel podcast and the show notes are all copyrighted. All blog posts, podcasts, and show notes that are distributed to the public for free can be redistributed via hard copy or electronic copy for free only if Health Talk with Dr. Kel is included as the acknowledged author within the actual media that is being redistributed. The Health Talk with Dr. Kel podcast is a production of the Orange Stack, with executive producers Dr. Kel Fullerton and Eric Hammond and host Nikki Sterling.